Young Life could be called a faith-based mentoring program for adolescents. But that sounds boring. And Young Life isn't boring. In 1941, Jim Rayburn knew that God wanted everyone to experience life to the full, even high schoolers. So he started Young Life. Since then, Young Life has branched into middle schools, colleges, and beyond in over 100 countries, all across the globe. For over 80 years, staff and volunteer leaders have been going to kids, getting to know and care for them, and inviting them into the greatest adventure of all. So, how does Young Life do this? It all starts with Young Life leaders. They go where adolescents are, whether track meets, coffee shops, or skate parks. Leaders care for kids on their turf, in their communities. They want every kid to have a friend and know that they're worthy of being cared for, whether they're interested in a relationship with God or not. Relationships are a foundation of Young Life. Leaders invite kids to Young Life Club, a celebration of relationships. It's a safe place to connect with others, where kids can be kids. A chance to laugh, have fun, and hear a life-changing story about God from one of their leaders. Fun is a foundation of Young Life. And if kids have questions about God and want to dig deeper, Young Life has campaigners, a small group of leaders and kids learning how to follow Jesus together by reading the Bible and talking about what a relationship with God looks like in everyday life. Faith is a foundation of Young Life. A few times a year, Young Life leaders invite their kids to Young Life Camp, a place designed just for them. At camp, kids can experience adventure, community, and consider who Jesus is, all while having one of the best weeks of their lives. Adventure is a foundation of Young Life. And Young Life isn't just for kids. Committee is a group of committed parents and adults partnering with local Young Life staff and volunteers, investing in their community. Community is a foundation of Young Life. So, if you're a kid, Young Life is a safe place for you to be known and hear about the God who knows and loves you. If you're a parent, it's a place for your kids to be cared for and encouraged. If you care about kids, you can even be a leader and help change someone's life. So, what is Young Life? It could be called a faith-based mentoring program for adolescents. And a whole lot more.
Generation Z, my generation, is defined as those born between 1997 and 2012. We're between 12 and 27 years old.
Just like you, we're built for relationships. They help us figure out who we are and really what we're worth.
Young Life did a study to find out how to better invest in my generation, learning how we can thrive now and in the future, with ourselves, with friends, with adults like parents and teachers, and with God. Hi!
First off, relationships and communicating, not online, but actually in person, matter to us in a huge way. Our screens are always on. Research says that they're connecting us to more loneliness and more anxiety. We may not always say we want it, but we love face-to-face time and shared real-life experiences. Relationships matter.
Second, transitions are the most challenging times for us. Sure, we struggle during our high school years, but we need the most support when we're transitioning into those years or out of them into whatever's after high school. We need solid adult relationships to help us through times when everything feels weird and new.
Third, friends and family are who we turn to for help. We trust you. As we get older, we need you to keep being someone we can count on for advice and support. We need you to remind us how we're made and who made us so we can answer these questions.
Am I enough to be loved? To be valued? Do I have something to offer the world?
When asked to come up with what we want to be known as, the two most common words are kind and good. We believe we can make a meaningful impact on the world for future generations.
We want something to help us live a better life, and this desire only gets stronger as we get older. Over 40% of us Gen Zers are not confident that we're worthy of being loved.
And this is where Young Life comes in. For more than 80 years, Young Life leaders have been showing up in the lives of kids, building relationships of trust, and sharing the good news of Jesus. We tell kids they're enough to be loved and have something to offer the world. It takes courage to step into the life of a kid, and we invite you to do just that. To explore what it means to be a leader, or to financially and prayerfully support those who lead. Together, we can care for the next generation and introduce them to the God who loves them.
The question is, how do our club talk progressions need to shift, if at all, in order to best serve Gen Z and maybe Gen Alpha?
So as far as the actual club talk sequence, the progression, that doesn't need to change. The gospel is the gospel. Who is Jesus? What is sin? What does the cross mean? What does the resurrection mean? And how am I supposed to respond to that? That should not change. That is what we do. Now, we all work with different populations of kids, different age groups of kids who are all experiencing different things and asking different questions about who God is and who they are. And I always say that the best, when someone says, how do I get better club talks? I say, go do contact work. Know your kids. Know what they're asking. Because when you start to hear similar themes, like if we tackled that question earlier, am I enough? You said, I can write a club talk that answers who Jesus is, who God is, and I can answer that question for you straight from the interactions that Jesus had with others in the gospel. So I focus more on what are the questions kids are asking? How do I answer that with our gospel sequence?
So good. This last question for this section, I think, is going to be a good segue to the next segment. And Karen, I want to come to you. The question is, what is the greatest relational need for both generations? So as we think about Gen Z, Gen Alpha, what we know about them, what are the different relational needs?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tanita just said we need to be cautious with what we say about Gen Alpha, right? Can I revise the question a bit? As a researcher, I get a little uncomfortable with what is the greatest. That's just really hard for me to answer. I can answer what is a great relational need. So if we can tweak the question that way, what is a great relational need? I think something that is generating more and more interest in parents and leaders like you all is the need to rebuild or maybe build trust with this generation of young people. This is a generation that has lost, both of them, Gen Z and Alpha, young people in general, they have lost trust with institutions. They have lost trust with adults. They have lost trust with church, and I mean church including faith community in general. And sadly, we in the faith community, we have earned that lack of trust, if that makes sense. Especially, I'll speak more in the U.S. That's more my primary focus on research, especially in the last say 6, 7, 8 years. And so I think that's a big task ahead of us as adults who care about young people, is building or rebuilding trust with them. And Young Life, I mean, you all do this so well. So you are some of our world's experts in this. So keep doing what you're doing, and let's figure out together how to rebuild trust.
Really good ministry are small things done consistently over a long period of time. Not the big explosive, we did a club and 200 kids showed up and they all stood up at Say So the next week, and that's 2 weeks of ministry. Can you believe what happened in 2 weeks? So it's the story of, I met this kid, we hung out over 8 years, and here's what happened. Which I know that we don't want to face that. I got to do my donor ask. I got to do my year-end reports. And I'm terrified if all I have at the end of the table is I met with this kid once a week for a year. But here's the reality is all of our adults know that something has changed in our world. All the adults we work with are looking at this next generation going, we don't understand what's going on, but they care about it, which is why they know you. They want to know you care too. And so when we come up and we say, we know you know things have changed, we know things have changed. Let us tell you how we're adjusting because things have changed, and give our folks who are supporting us and with us the benefit of the doubt that they also understand that a different pace has to be run.
Amen. Friends, I want to invite you as we close out this segment to do what we do best, which is our first work. and pray. I want to invite you to just take, who is that kid, that young person, that Gen Z, maybe that Gen Alpha, that is top of mind, or maybe that God brings to the top of mind, and just take a second around your tables, just like 30 seconds to a minute, and just turn in and just pray.